The stars were quiet that night. Only the soft hum of the ship, Valora, moved through the darkness of space. Its metal wings cut across the silent void, carrying a small alien crew from the planet Rhinar. They were traders, tired, hungry, and far from home. Inside the ship, Captain Lura looked at the blinking lights on her control screen. Another empty sector, she sighed. Nothing but cold space. Then, a sudden alarm echoed. "Captain, life signal detected," shouted Taro, the ship's scanner operator. Lura's eyes widened. "Out here? That's impossible. Show me." The screen flickered. A small escape pod drifted in the Black Sea, spinning slowly. It looked damaged, old, human-made. The life signal inside was weak, almost fading. "Could be a trap," one alien warned. "Pirates sometimes use fake signals." Another shook his head. "It's just one pod, no power, no weapons." Lura hesitated. Their food supply was low, their energy reserves nearly empty. They could not afford trouble. But when she looked closer, she saw a figure inside, a thin, fragile human, barely breathing. She remembered the stories her people told. Humans were wild, powerful, unpredictable. Some said they destroyed worlds. Others said they saved them. Lura whispered, "Bring it in." The crew pulled the escape pod aboard. Steam hissed as the door opened. The air smelled of metal and dust. Inside, they saw him, a human male, pale and weak, his face covered in frost. His lips moved, but no words came. "Should we help him?" Taro asked nervously. "We can't feed him," another said. "We barely have enough for ourselves." But Lura didn't listen. She took out a small food capsule, her own last meal. Slowly, she placed it near the human's mouth. "Eat," she said softly. "You're safe now." The human opened his eyes for the first time. They were tired but kind. He looked at her, confused, and whispered one word. "Hank, you." Then he fell back into sleep. The crew placed him in the medical bay. The ship was silent. Some aliens were angry. "You gave him your food, Captain. Why? He's not one of us." Lura looked out the window at the endless stars. "Because," she said, "he was dying, and because no one should die alone." Hours passed. The ship floated quietly, but then, something strange happened. The lights flickered. The energy core glowed brighter. Systems that had been broken for weeks suddenly came back online. "What's going on?" Taro shouted. "The reactor is charging itself." "That's impossible," another said. "We were out of power." Lura rushed to the medical bay. The human was still asleep, but his body was surrounded by a faint golden light, soft and warm like sunlight through water. The ship's sensors detected something spreading through the walls, tiny waves of unknown energy. It wasn't dangerous, it was healing. One alien whispered, "Is he doing this?" No one answered. Hours later, the human opened his eyes again. His voice was weak but calm. "You helped me," he said. "Now, your ship will live." Lura stared at him. "What do you mean?" He smiled faintly. "A gift from humanity." Before anyone could ask more, he closed his eyes again, falling into deep sleep. But the ship continued to hum stronger and brighter than before. Lura looked at him with wonder and fear. Who was this man? How could a starving human make their dying ship come alive again? As she stood there, a strange feeling filled her heart, a mixture of awe and unease. The stars outside seemed to shine brighter, as if watching closely. Lura whispered to herself, "What have we brought aboard?" And in the quiet hum of the ship, something ancient and powerful stirred. A small act of kindness had awakened a story that would change the galaxy forever. The ship Valora floated silently through the cold dark. The alien crew still could not believe what had happened. Their broken systems had healed themselves. Lights that were dead for weeks now glowed bright and warm. Power levels were rising on their own. Captain Lura stood in the control room, staring at the glowing energy core. "It's impossible," whispered Taro, her science officer. "The reactor was empty. Nothing could restart it." Lura said softly, "Nothing. Except him." In the medical bay, the human lay on the small bed. His body looked weak, but the air around him felt alive. A soft hum filled the room, as if the ship itself was breathing with him. Every time he exhaled, the lights flickered gently. like his heartbeat was in rhythm with the ship. When he finally woke, his eyes opened slowly. They were clear and calm, shining like the reflection of stars on water. Lura entered quietly. "Can you understand me?" she asked. He nodded weakly. "Yes, you speak similar to us." "What is your name?" she asked. He smiled faintly. "You can call me Elior." Lura studied him carefully. "Where did you come from?" Elior looked away, his eyes heavy with memories. "From a colony, long gone. My ship was attacked. I drifted for days. I thought it was the end." He looked at her, gratitude soft in his voice. "Until you offered me food." The words made her chest tighten. She remembered that small capsule she had given him. It had meant nothing to her then, just a simple act of pity. But to him, it meant life. "You repaired our ship," Lura said. "How?" Elior smiled again, weak but sincere. "I didn't repair it. I only shared energy, human energy. When I felt your kindness, something inside me responded. We are made to return what we receive." The crew gathered, listening with disbelief. "Are you saying your body fixed our reactor?" one asked. Elior nodded gently. "Not my body. My Heicho, Ert." The aliens exchanged confused glances. They didn't understand, but Lura did. She could feel it, the truth behind his words. Days passed. Elior began to recover. He ate small portions and spoke softly about humanity, how they once struggled, starved, fought wars, and yet always helped one another rise again. He told them about the Unity Fleet, massive ships that traveled the galaxy spreading aid to dying worlds. One night, as he sat near the ship's viewing window, Lura joined him. Stars drifted outside like silver dust. "You risked your life to help us," she said. "Why?" Elior looked at her and smiled. "Because you gave me food when you had none. That is the purest act in the universe. Humanity believes kindness is never wasted. It grows, like light in darkness." Lura didn't reply. His words touched something deep inside her, but peace didn't last. A warning alarm flashed. Meteor field ahead. The ship shook violently. "Shields failing," Taro shouted. "We'll be torn apart." Elior stood, still weak, but his eyes blazed with calm strength. "Let me help." He placed his hand on the glowing reactor core. The entire ship trembled, and a surge of bright golden light spread through every wall. The meteors hit, but instead of breaking, they disintegrated like dust in sunlight. Silence followed. The ship was safe. Everyone stared at him in awe. Lura whispered, "What are you?" Elior looked tired but peaceful. "A human," he said simply, "but perhaps not the kind you remember." He turned to her, his voice low but strong. "You gave me life. Now, I will give your world hope." The crew watched as the energy around him slowly faded, but the warmth remained. Their fear was replaced by something new: faith. As the ship continued toward their homeworld, Lura gazed at the sleeping human once more. She didn't know what destiny awaited them, but one thing was clear: the moment they fed a starving human, the universe itself had begun to change. The Valora glided through the dark ocean of space, now glowing faintly with golden light. Its systems ran smoother than ever. Energy flowed freely, food regenerators worked again, and the crew, once weak and hopeless, felt strength returning. Captain Lura stood near the observation window, staring at her homeworld in the distance. Rhinar Prime. Once green and rich, it now looked gray and silent. Drought had eaten their rivers, storms had poisoned their skies, and famine had broken their people. "We'll be home soon," said Taro, her science officer. "But what will we bring them, Captain? Our world is dying." Before she could answer, Elior entered the deck. He looked much healthier now, though his face still carried quiet sadness. "I've heard your world is in pain," he said softly. "Perhaps I can help." Lura gave a faint smile. "You already helped us, Elior. Without you, we would never have made it back." He shook his head. "No, Captain. What I gave was only a spark. You gave me life. Now let me return the warmth." The Valora descended through the thick gray clouds of Rhinar. The cities below looked half dead. Streets empty, farms dry, factories silent. When the ship landed, hundreds of starving aliens gathered around, watching silently as the ramp opened. Their eyes were hollow, their skin pale. Elior stepped forward. He looked around at the suffering faces. There was no fear in his eyes, only calm and empathy. One small child reached out and whispered, "Are you the human they talk about?" Elior smiled gently. "I suppose I am." He kneeled, opening a small silver cube from his pocket. It hummed with soft light. "This is a gift," he said. "It uses energy to create what your hearts desire most." The cube expanded, hovering above the ground. Then, without warning, a warm wind spread out from it. Golden particles flowed through the air, touching the soil, the empty bowls, dying plants. Before the alien's eyes, green sprouts burst from the dry land. Fruits appeared, bright and fresh, glowing with life. Gasps filled the air. A farmer dropped to his knees, crying, "Food! Real food!" Within minutes, the barren square had turned into a field of growing crops. Laura's voice trembled. "Elior, how is this possible?" He looked at her with that same gentle smile. "You offered a meal to a starving man. Humanity remembers every kindness. Our technology carries that memory. It creates life when compassion is shared." The people began to eat. Children laughed for the first time in years. The crew of Valora stood speechless, tears in their eyes. Elior simply watched, silent and peaceful, as if the joy itself gave him strength. Later that evening, Laura found him sitting by the glowing cube, watching the stars. "Your gift saved our world," she said. "How can we ever repay this?" Elior looked at the horizon, where green fields stretched under the fading light. "You already did," he said. "The moment you chose to save a stranger instead of yourself." He turned toward her, his voice soft but full of power. "Kindness is the most powerful force in the universe. You gave me one meal. Humanity will feed your world for eternity." Laura felt her heart tremble. "Are you saying more of your kind will come?" Elior's eyes glowed faintly. "They already know. When one human is saved, all of humanity feels it. Help is coming." And as the night fell over Reinar Prime, a signal left Elior's wrist beacon, a pulse of light traveling faster than sound, faster than hope. In the quiet sky, far above the stars, Earth received it. And deep within the command halls of the Unity fleet, alarms lit up. Coordinates appeared on their screens. Reinar Prime. A single message repeated endlessly. They fed one human. Humanity will feed their world forever. The sun over Reinar Prime rose weak and pale, its light barely touching the dusty ground. For generations, the planet had known nothing but hunger and drought. But on this day, something new was coming. Something the universe had not seen before. Captain Lura stood on a high ridge, watching the sky. Her people had eaten well for the first time in years, thanks to Elior's strange gift. Crops were growing again, water was flowing in old riverbeds, and laughter had returned to the streets. But now, she felt uneasy. "Are you sure they're coming?" she asked. Elior stood beside her, calm as ever, eyes focused on the empty heavens. "Yes," he said quietly. "When one of us is saved, all of us know. Humanity remembers every kindness, even one meal." A low hum filled the air. The clouds began to shimmer like liquid glass. Then, with a burst of light, hundreds of shapes appeared in orbit. Massive human starships, gleaming silver and white, surrounding Reinar like a ring of stars. The people looked up in fear and wonder. "Are we being invaded?" someone shouted. Elior smiled softly. "No, you're being helped." Moments later, streaks of light descended from the sky. Human aid ships entered the atmosphere, each carrying food generators, water processors, and medicine that glowed with soft blue energy. When the ships landed, their crews stepped out, humans in white armor marked with the emblem of the Unity fleet. Two hands joined across a star. The leader of the fleet, Admiral Kara Soren, approached Elior. She looked at him with a mix of pride and disbelief. "We received your signal, Elior. You survived." He nodded. "Because of them." He gestured toward Lura and her people. They shared what little they had. Kara turned to Lura, her voice filled with warmth. "Your act of kindness reached the heart of humanity. Now we return it. Not once, but forever." The next days were you, and like anything the Reinar had ever seen. Human drones covered barren lands, releasing seeds that grew instantly under the glow of engineered sunlight. Rivers turned clear again. Cities powered by fusion energy came alive with light. In the skies, massive orbital gardens unfolded. living satellites that produced endless food for the planet below. No one went hungry. No child cried from thirst. Everywhere the humans went, they worked with the Rhinar, not above them. They taught, healed, and shared technology freely. Lura watched as her people, once broken and afraid, now smiled and worked side by side with humans. The air was filled with laughter and hope. For the first time in generations, her world was alive again. Yet not everyone in the galaxy was happy. Far across the stars, other alien empires watched in silence. Some were angry, others were afraid. "They feed worlds," one alien leader said. "What do they seek in return?" Another replied, "They seek nothing. That is what makes them dangerous." Back on Rhinar, as night fell, Lura stood with Elior on a balcony overlooking the glowing fields. "Your people did all this for us," she said. Elior smiled. "Kindness grows when it's shared. You fed one starving human. Humanity feeds your world for eternity." She looked at him with tears in her eyes. "How can we ever repay such a debt?" He turned his gaze to the stars, where human ships glowed like guardians of light. "By doing the same," he said, "when you see another world in pain, feed it, heal it. That is how the gift continues." As the twin moons rose above Rhinar, their reflections shimmered across rivers reborn. The world that once starved now sang with life. But in the distance, hidden behind the stars, dark fleets began to move. The galaxy had noticed humanity's light, and some feared that light would soon outshine them all. Rhinar Prime no longer slept under gray skies. Its rivers now glowed blue with life, and wind carried the sweet scent of green fields. For the first time in centuries, the world was alive, and it was because of humanity. Captain Lura stood on the grand steps of the new Unity Hall. Before her gathered both Rhinar and humans, side by side. Flags of both worlds fluttered together in the warm sunlight. Elior stood nearby, his expression calm but thoughtful. He looked stronger now, yet there was a deep silence in his eyes, as if he knew peace never lasted forever. Admiral Kara Soren stepped forward, her voice strong. "Today," she declared, "humanity and the Rhinar stand not as strangers, not as saviors and saved, but as partners. Together, we form the Eternal Alliance, a promise that no world will starve again." Cheers filled the air. The people of Rhinar shouted their gratitude, their voices echoing through the shining city. Lura felt pride and hope surge within her chest. For once, the universe felt kind, but in the dark corners of space, not everyone celebrated. Across the stars, in the council chambers of the Vorak Dominion, anger burned. "They turn famine into faith," roared the Vorak High Lord. "They rebuild dead worlds and win hearts. Soon half the galaxy will follow them." A cold voice replied, "Then we must stop them. No species should hold that much power, especially not humans." Back on Rhinar, humanity continued to share their knowledge. They taught the Rhinar how to create energy from light, grow crops on barren soil, and heal with nanotech. Children of both species studied together, played together, dreamed together. Elior watched all of it with quiet joy, but deep down, he felt a strange pull, a warning in his mind. Something unseen was moving beyond the stars. That night, Lura joined him on the balcony overlooking the glowing city. "Everyone loves you," she said softly. "To us, you are a miracle." Elior smiled faintly. "I am just a messenger," he said. "The real miracle is what you chose to do. Give without expecting anything in return." She looked at the horizon. "Do you think the galaxy will understand that?" His voice turned somber. "Not everyone. Some will see kindness as weakness. Others will fear it." As if his words had summoned it, alarms blared across the city the next morning. Unknown ships had appeared in orbit, black, angular, silent. Admiral Kara's voice echoed through comms. "Unidentified fleet approaching fast. Energy signatures match Vorak weapon systems. All civilians to shelters." The sky darkened as the enemy fleet descended. Beams of red light flashed, shaking the atmosphere. Rhinar defenses tried to respond but were outmatched. Then Elior stepped forward. "Don't fire," he said calmly. Kara turned to him furious. "They're attacking us." Elior's eyes glowed faintly. "They will stop." He walked outside, into the open, where the sky burned with red trails. He lifted his hand, and for a moment, everything froze. The air shimmered like glass, and every Vorak ship stopped midair. Engines silent, weapons dead. The soldiers watching could only stare. Elior whispered, "Humanity fights only when it must, and when we do not destroy. We teach." The Vorak ships drifted safely back into space, systems intact but completely disarmed. The entire fleet was neutralized without a single life lost. When it was over, silence filled the skies. The Rhinar people looked at Elior with awe and fear. Lura asked quietly, "You could have destroyed them. Why didn't you?" He looked up, eyes filled with light. "Because mercy is stronger than fear. Humanity's power is not in weapons, it's in understanding." That day, every world watching learned the same lesson. Humanity's kindness was not weakness, it was strength, ancient, boundless, and unstoppable. Peace had returned to Rhinar Prime, but it was a new kind of peace, one built not on fear, but on understanding. The skies were blue again, rivers sparkled under twin suns, and laughter filled the air where silence once ruled. Yet, even as life bloomed, Captain Lura knew this peace carried a powerful message, one that reached far beyond their world. Humanity had not only saved them, they had changed them. In every city, Rhinar and humans worked side by side. The humans never ruled, never demanded tribute, and never spoke of power. Instead, they shared knowledge, how to heal with light, how to grow food from air, and how to turn pain into strength. Children of both species ran through the new gardens, shouting in two languages, laughing the same way. And for the first time in history, Rhinar Prime wasn't just alive, it was awake. Elior walked through the streets in silence, smiling softly as he saw the people he once thought doomed now thriving. But deep inside, he felt something changing. Each act of kindness, each shared meal, each healed wound seemed to pull a golden thread inside his heart, connecting him to something vast and unseen. One evening, Lura found him standing before the great monument at Unity Plaza. It showed two hands, one human, one Rhinar, holding a glowing seed. Lura said quietly, "Do you ever miss your world, Elior?" He looked up at the stars. "Earth," he said softly. "No, because home is not a planet. It's what you build when you care for others." She smiled sadly. "You sound less like a man and more like a spirit." Elior chuckled. "Perhaps we are both." News spread across the galaxy of what had happened on Rhinar Prime. How humans had rebuilt a dead world without taking anything in return. Worlds that once feared humanity began to wonder, could these beings really be that selfless? Soon, messages came from other star systems, worlds suffering from famine, war, or plague. The Unity fleet responded to every call. Rhinar ships joined them, eager to help. Their captains carried the same message Elior had given them. Kindness is the greatest power in the universe. Together, they turned wastelands into gardens, oceans into crystal blue waters, and despair into hope. They called their growing movement the Circle of Life, a network of worlds bound by compassion, not control. But even as the galaxy began to heal, darkness stirred again. The defeated Vorak Dominion, humiliated and afraid, whispered in secret councils. "They spread like a disease," one general hissed. "Soon, every world will kneel before their mercy." Another replied, "Then we must destroy the heart of this kindness, before it consumes us all." Back on Rhinar, Elior could feel the coming storm. He knew that kindness often frightened those who thrived on fear, yet he wasn't afraid. He gathered Lura and the Rhinar Council. "They will come again," he said calmly, "not for your land, but for your hope. And when they do, remember this. Hope cannot be taken. It can only be shared." Lura nodded, her eyes fierce. "Then we will share it, the same way you shared your life with us." Elior smiled, proud. "That's what it means to be human, not by blood, but by heart." As night fell, golden lights rose into the sky from every city, thousands of beacons glowing like stars. Each one represented a life saved, a heart awakened. From orbit, Rhinar Prime looked like a world made entirely of light. And across the stars, billions watched in silence. realizing that humanity's true weapon was not strength, not power, but compassion so vast it could reshape the galaxy itself. The heart of humanity had begun to beat across worlds, and nothing, not war, not fear, not darkness, could stop it now. 1,000 years had passed since one starving human was given a single meal in the darkness of space. The galaxy had changed. Worlds once divided by fear now shared the same light. The light that began with one act of kindness. The circle of life had grown beyond imagination. Hundreds of planets worked together, trading not gold or power, but compassion. Wherever there was hunger, ships came. Wherever there was war, peace followed. And at the heart of it all, the story of Elior and the Rhinar became legend. Every year, across thousands of stars, people celebrated the Feast of Eternity, a day when no one ate alone. From giant cities on Earth to small outposts on distant moons, every race, every being, shared food and stories. Children were taught how it all began, with a captain who shared her last meal with a dying stranger. They learned that true power was not in strength or weapons, but in empathy, the courage to care even when you have little left. On Rhinar Prime, the skies glowed golden every year on the day of the feast. Ships from every world arrived, carrying gifts of food, art, and music. The city of Valora Haven, named after the old ship that started it all, stood as the symbol of unity. In the center of the city stood a monument, two figures carved from crystal light. A Rhinar woman offering food to a thin, weak human. Between them glowed a single eternal flame, burning brighter than the suns themselves. Legends said that flame was made from Elior's final breath, the moment he returned to the stars. No one knew where he went. Some believed he became part of the light that now connected all living worlds. Others said he still walked among them, unseen, guiding those who chose kindness over cruelty. Captain Lura's name too lived on, remembered as the first who chose compassion when all logic said no. Her descendants still led the Rhinar fleets, not as conquerors, but as healers of broken worlds. As the feast began, millions gathered in the Grand Plaza. A young Rhinar child stood before the monument, holding a small loaf of bread. She looked up at her teacher and asked, "Did he really save the world with just one meal?" The teacher smiled. "No, little one, she saved him first." The child's eyes widened. "Then, they both saved each other?" The teacher nodded. "Exactly. That is what the feast means. When one heart gives, another awakens." Across the galaxy, countless hands passed food from one to another. Humans, Rhinar, and 1,000 other species, all united in simple gratitude. No armies, no empires, just a shared memory of hope. Above them, in the endless night sky, a strange glow began to form, a soft golden wave spreading across the stars. It looked like sunlight blooming in space. Scientists called it an energy echo, but the old ones whispered, "It's him. It's Elior. He still watches." As the golden light spread from system to system, it carried with it warmth, peace, and calm. No machines could explain it. No power could control it. It was humanity, alive in every act of kindness, every shared meal, every world reborn from compassion. And as the celebration filled the night with laughter and song, the eternal flame at the monument flared brighter, whispering across time. They offered one meal to a starving human, so humanity fed their entire world, and every world after, for eternity. The stars above shimmered as if they too remembered, and somewhere beyond them, unseen but ever present, a familiar voice spoke softly into the cosmos. Kindness never dies. It only travels farther.